Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Loan Officer Life, Hustle, Heart, and Home Ownership. There's sometimes when you get to meet somebody and then you wonder, why has it taken 30 plus years for us to meet? And that's what Natalie and I are going to do right here in front of all of you. We literally we had a 45-second conversation, hit record, and you guys are all going to get the benefit of watching us meet for the first time. Natalie, thanks for spending time with me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I'm a big fan of yours and all the stuff you put out on LinkedIn. There's a handful of people that I follow that I feel like are real thought leaders and, lead in our industry. And I definitely put you there. So thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate that. We should give credit where credit is due. Michelle Berman Michael.
Yes.
Right. You do a lot of stuff with Michelle.
Michelle actually does my personal social media. She's my personal kick in the booty every week on any of your content. So if you look back a couple of months, you'll see I'm a lot more consistent, and I credit Michelle 100% for getting me on a consistent
She's amazing.
schedule.
So I interviewed her on the Loan Officer Life. I think she might have been my first episode when I rebranded from FinTech Fridays to Loan Officer Life. And if you want to go check out like how Michelle coaches, watch that episode, because she literally coached me up on the podcast. I
love her style because she's really kind of shoot you between the eyes, but in a very kind way. And that is a little of my style. Like, I will tell you the truth, but I kind of come at it at a slant to where people can handle it, metabolize it better. She is very much that way. But she is true to who she is. And I love it. She doesn't compromise. And I appreciate that about her.
So she's another person in this industry that it took her and I like probably 5, 6, 8 years before we actually had our first conversation. And it only happened, like 4 months ago.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. Yeah.
But it's, really, to me, it's the power of social.
Mm-hmm.
I see you on LinkedIn, you're seeing my stuff on LinkedIn. I think we probably both feel like we know each other better than we should.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. In fact, I tell my team all the time, because I harp on them a lot about social and branding and video. I read an article, and this was during COVID, that the endorphins that you get when you meet someone in person are the same endorphins that we get when we see each other on camera. And so if you're not taking opportunity to put your face out there so people get to know who you are, do video calls with your clients, do Zoom meetings, don't do just over the phone. The more they see you, the more connected they feel to you and like they know you.
It's amazing. I had to become more comfortable on video and on LinkedIn when I left what I now call the cushy confines of corporate mortgage America.
There's such thing anymore as cushy confines.
No, I don't miss it right now. I can tell you that. But
it's not fun. I don't envy my.
But it's tough being in the startup. Startup tech world is not a cakewalk.
100%.
But when I was at Flagstar, I had the Flagstar brand that carried a lot of weight. I had a big marketing department and a lot of resources. And then, stepping into FinLocker, small company, very limited resources. Like when I got here, we didn't have anybody dealing with marketing. So
you're marketing.
I had to figure out quickly how to go, how to spread the word and build awareness about this FinLocker brand. And the one asset I had when I came over was I had a decent number of followers on LinkedIn at the time. And so I just doubled down because it's free.
Right.
And, but it forced comfort fast.
The more you do it, it's the muscle. And I saw somebody posted on LinkedIn that I saw that LinkedIn is almost the best place to post from a brand building standpoint, because it's the 99-to-1 ratio, meaning that only 1% of people on LinkedIn actually post. And so you have a really good chance of your content being seen, even if they don't like or, comment on your post, they're seeing it. So it is a great place to post. And it's really where I went big a few years ago, is posting every day on LinkedIn. And it's really, I think I'm right at about 14,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Right on.
And a couple of years ago, I was 1,000 maybe.
Yeah.
So it built fast.
What I like too is you can help grow your following and your connections, because you can invite whatever it is, a couple hundred a week of new connections, right?
That's right. That's right. Sometimes they limit you, like my max, but yeah,
I'm at the max. It maxed me out, so I've
great
kind of
to build your network.
I'm trying to. I spend a lot of time actually weeding out my connections and to make sure that I've got the right people, and my people are in mortgage.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit more picky about who I'm accepting invites from myself. The guy with one follower in Pakistan, I'm probably not accepting.
Probably not a good follower.
I've had a few of those. So
oh yeah, it's gotten a little spammy, but so let's shift gears a little bit. I love talking LinkedIn though, because it's for
powerful.
loan officers. I keep telling loan officers, don't sleep on LinkedIn. Yes, you may not get the same, consumer engagement, if you will, that you're getting from some of the other platforms. But here's what I'm seeing happen more often. LinkedIn is almost becoming the de facto website. So like I don't look anybody up on their website. The first place I go to check them out, if I don't know them, is LinkedIn.
Yep, I do the same. It's your business card. It's how people get to know you. And if they Google you, LinkedIn comes up first. And so that's what I tell my loan officers, because none of them like to get on LinkedIn. It's not as fun. It's not as sexy. It's not as engaging and music and, all the fun. You get, the cat videos. But it is the best place to have a very professional, get a couple of reviews on there, because people will look at it. It's your business card.
I see a world where probably inside of the next 3 years, if you're a loan officer and you're not on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of people that are on LinkedIn, and then you go look them up, and I say that they're not on LinkedIn.
Right.
First thing, they don't have their picture up. If you don't have your picture up, you're not on LinkedIn. Second thing, they haven't taken advantage of all the real estate in and around their picture to tell the story of who they are, why someone should like them and trust them. If you're not taking advantage of that, you're really not on LinkedIn. Because you don't have to be on LinkedIn and post every day, but you need to, when someone finds you there, they need to immediately think that, this is a credible person. This is someone that I can trust with this financial transaction in my life.
Well, and it's a big missing piece, I would say, for the majority of originators. And it will become more important, as I really do think personal branding is going to be just a non-negotiable in the next 12 to 24 months. And the more we're competing with the big, let's use Rocket as an example, the local LO will win, because the majority of people want to work with local. But they want to know who you are, and that will be your differentiator. They can't go on and see who their Rocket LO is, because that's in the Borg, right, of the machine. But they can look at who Natalie Overturf is. If I'm their originator, they can see that I've got twins and I've got wiener dogs and I live in the country in Coeur d'Alene, and I've got some cool, kind of cool. They're much more likely to engage with me than they are the Rocket person.
Totally.
In my opinion. So I think we overestimate what Rocket will do. In fact, I said this to Jeff yesterday, that Rocket had 4% market share roughly before the Redfin acquisition. Redfin had less than 1% market share. So Redfin wasn't a big acquisition for them in terms of market share and deals. It's their platform that they wanted for search and the listings. But they're going to have Zillow as their main competitor, right? And where they win is probably refis, if we're not doing our job to make sure we're capturing that data and staying in contact with our customers. But people still want to work with local. And if you've built a good personal brand in your local market, you can win.
And I think I always look at, so I'm in Detroit, so Rocket's like right down the street. I've known them, since they were literally brokering loans in their early days. The company I was with back in the 90s, we They brokered loans to us. So I have a lot of respect for the organization, and they're smart. I mean, it's
Very smart.
a collection of some of the smartest business people, not just mortgage people, but business people assembled. And so it's easy for all of us who compete with them to, to say, oh, it's Rocket, they're this, they're that. I look at it differently. I tell loan officers, they created the playbook and they're doing it publicly for all of us to see.
For the rest of us to follow. That's right.
And you nailed the superpower that they don't have, which is the local loan officer, the local loan originator. So if you're a loan officer and you happen to be at CMG, which is a forward-leaning, modern mortgage company that shows up digitally, has a great technology stack.
That's right. We do.
Coupled with, highly proficient, professional, local-based mortgage professionals. That's what wins the purchase business.
I agree.
It's always been the case.
I actually call Paul Akinmati is our chief, technology and marketing. Yeah. He does everything. He's amazing. He's incredible. He talks like on fast speed, where you speed up your podcast a few times. He's the fastest talker because he's got so much to say. He's got to fit it in. Anyways, I called him to let him know I was going to be talking to you today and just asked him, what's your opinion? I'd love to share with Brian where you feel like, especially this is loan officer life. What do loan officers need to know about what is important in the future? And he said two things. Number one, getting access to data that's usable and that shows you what the opportunity is. So like, for example, and there are vendors that do this if your company doesn't, right? So we have what's called an opportunity dashboard inside of our LOS. We have a proprietary LOS that just shows the customer, shows what we think the value of their home is, what their equity is, what their credit card debt is right now. So even if their rate isn't in the money for a refi, we know that they've got equity and they've got credit card debt, right? We know about what the value of their home is. We know what their FICO score is. We have all of that data so that my loan officer can look at that in their dashboard and say, I need to call this guy because he should do a cash out refinance. He's going to save and we can tell him you're going to save $700 a month, even though your rate's going up a point. So he just said, you got to have access to the data because that's what Rocket has, right? Yeah. That's what the bigs have. They have the data. And the second thing he said is you got to be a part of the life cycle of the customer. So servicing is a big part of that. We believe at CMG, and we talked about Courtney Thompson, who's just stood up our servicing platform for internal servicing. He really views it as, you're going to want to be that first point of contact with servicing. Servicing's hard today because you're getting more on, I'm going to be really transparent. I mean, you're getting more on the sell than you are on the buy right now. So a lot of companies are doing service release because they need it for pricing. But I think that strategy will swing back, to where lenders will try and keep more servicing. I think a lot are selling right now, though, because of the Rockets and the new reses and the freedoms that are paying up for servicing.
I mean,
they want your customer, just so you know.
You can look at the biggest lenders in America, and they sell servicing from time to time.
Yes, we're selling some servicing right now. I know Rate is selling most of their servicing. So is Fairway. I mean, cross country, we're all in the same boat of selling servicing because we need to put it back into price so we can get on the price. So you need it on the scrape right now.
I love these kind of conversations because we did not plan on like breaking it down, but I think it's important for the audience to understand. A lot. I came from a bank before I came to FinLocker, and even we had to sell servicing from time to time because it's a capital intensive business.
It is, especially with the capital reserve ratio you have to carry for servicing as well. It's a big deal. And I think as loan officers, and I'm a loan officer at heart, I originated for most of my career. I had a production team till about 7 years ago. My heart is as a loan officer, and I can sell what you give me. I just need to understand it. So when I worked for lenders that did not hold servicing, I just said, hey, I'm your first point of contact. If you've got any pains or questions, just call me. I can help you. And this allows me to give you the best price and give you a lot of value by going through me. And so we need to be able to have those scripts. Our loan officers need to be prepared, and they need to tell their customers your servicing may be sold, so that it's not a surprise, because even if we don't sell the loan today, they might decide to do a bulk sale, right, a year later. So it's just a part of the business right now. I have a friend that's at Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo has sold servicing.
Oh, yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
one of the largest servicers in the country. So everybody will sell servicing from time to time.
Yeah, I think if I was going to leave one item with the audience, servicing itself is one asset component of the mortgage transaction. It gets created when a loan gets originated. It is literally an asset that has a value, and that value moves from time to time. And, it takes a lot of capital, because if you're originating a loan and you sell it service released, as a seller of that loan, all the dollars that come back it's all the economics of that loan realized upfront at one time. Whereas if you're retaining servicing, I don't know, 30, 40%, sometimes 50% of the economics are a stream of cash flow now that are going to come in the future.
Right. And not today, which is hard today because of just, volumes and margins and all the things that we know, or just make this business challenging. In fact, Rosemary sent us an article that said, the majority of lenders did not make money in Q1, right? And we were at a loss. CMG, we did make money. We scraped out some, I can't tell you exactly what that was, but we did make some money. But majority of lenders are not making money. So you think of what that recipe is for 2025 if we stay here, right, in this trough of volume. So everybody's going to have to figure it out some way or somehow. And honestly, the strong will survive. Chris George, our owner, he just says this is the best time to take market share is in markets like this, because they need us today. We are not vendors. We are partners today. We can go in and help our agents. There's more sitting inventory than there's been since pre-COVID days, right? We just saw the stat on that. So we can help them. Like, here's how you sell your listing. Here's some affordability is the biggest challenge for homeowners right now. Let me show you how to use seller concession, to use the mortgage coach playbook, right? Dave Savage, let's use concession to do a rate buy down, a 2-1 buy down, get you 2021 rates so that you can get into this home. So our skills are much more in demand today than they were. Everybody misses the 2021 market, right? Loans falling from the sky, but today is the day you can build a sustainable business.
I agree. And I think you hit on this with Paul's comment around kind of the entire life cycle of the customer, of the consumer. I listen to all the experts. You're one of them that's out there. And I'm hearing more often today this concept of becoming a home ownership advisor, which means a lot, right? Too many loan officers have gotten caught in the transactional part of the business, which is I'm here when someone raises their hand and they're ready, and then they're on to the next one. Ryan Grant and his team, they kind of talk about the relationship doesn't start until the loan closes, and then that's the 30-year relationship going forward, right? I'm going to be your financial advisor for all things home and home related.
Yes.
For the next 30 years. And I think if you have that mindset, it changes a lot of how you think about pricing and rates and all the stuff, because your value is not just in that transaction. It's literally in helping.
Well, and how are you positioning that with your customer at closing, right? Cindy Ertman, she's my coach. She's been my coach for a long time. And she, kind of lays out, like, make sure you know who their financial planner is, who is their CPA, who's their insurance agent. Like, you have opportunity to go 4 or 5 ways for different relationships that you can make to be able to encircle this customer to where you guys are their go-to for anything financially related. And I think as loan officers, we forget how important it is to have that conversation before closing. Like, don't wait till the loan closes and then be calling them like, who's your financial planner? Who's your CPA? Can you get me in contact? During the transaction is the time to do that. And it allows you to stay connected for the lifetime of the client. And I think we all did. I think people forgot how important those relationships were when you're just so busy handling the business coming at you and not nurturing that business once it closes.
Yeah. And in a lot of cases, in a lot of ways, I don't fault anybody.
No.
When the business was coming in, but most of that business was, a lot of the business was refinance business.
Yes. Yes.
And it's harder to stand out and differentiate as a loan officer in a rate and term refi. You're 90% more likely you're going to get shopped anyway. That's just the nature of that type of business. And so it's, we're not in that market. And now this is when expertise, education, kind of care is the differentiator, because we're all selling a commoditized set of products and rates and, all that goes with that.
Yeah. And I think the stat is 7 out of 10 borrowers will go with the first loan officer that educates them, right? That actually takes the time to say, this is what to expect before, during, and after. And so there is real opportunity. I think sometimes I think, well, we know it all. We've done it all. What else is there to do? And there's always room to improve each step of the process, I feel like. And now's the time to do it, right? It's really hard to do it like when the car's going 70 miles an hour down the road, when everybody's moving so fast. But now we have a little bit more steady, more predictable market. We can make those changes. Yeah.
The JD Power 2024 originator survey talked about that exact concept, right? Of winning by getting there, by engaging early. It was the average score when a consumer engaged with the lender / loan officer, let's just say 60 plus days before application, their average satisfaction score was 107 points higher than when they started at the point of loan application, right?
That's a big number.
Fascinating. Just fascinating.
That is a big number. Well, that's why educational content on social is so important, because it's 3 times more likely to get shared. It's a little more boring to do. It's not fun like the dance videos, but educational content is actually very valuable, because if we so take for granted what's a debt to income ratio, but the average, my sister-in-law, she's 32. She just bought her first house. So she just fits right into that stat with the average first-time home buyer being 34. I think she might be a little early, but she had no idea, and I've known her since she was 4 years old. So, and she's got a family members in the business. So I think we just forget, people don't know, they don't understand educational content for social media. It's very valuable, and it will get shared if you're putting it out in a consistent YouTube channel, like TikTok, all those places. So it's a great opportunity for you to set yourself apart.
So let's talk about your team. I find it fascinating that the kind of core of your team has been together for decades.
Yes, it has been decades, actually. So I started with First Horizon in 2003 when I was an originator. I was a loan officer. I did 50 million that year, which today would be like 200 million with the average loan amount. So it was a good year. 2003 was a good year for a lot of us. Went to First Horizon that year, and that's where I met Rosemary David, Jeff Schaller, eventually Chad Jackson, Kate Nichols, Christine Griffin, all during that time at First Horizon within those first couple of years. I moved into a more senior leadership role there in 2007. I took a district, which was just terrible timing, Brian. Like, I took the job. I was still producing, but I'd get handed over to my team, and then the market, kind of fell apart, and it was just a really hard time. And so First Horizon told us they were going to sell. They just said their construction portfolio came back to bite them in the booty, and we had to sell. So we wound up selling to MetLife. MetLife had a good 3-year run, and then Dodd-Frank happened in 2011, and they decided not to expose the entire enterprise to Dodd-Frank. And so they actually shut us down, and we had looked for a plan B. We went to Home Street together, Home Street Bank. So we were with the bank as well for 8 years. Home Street sold us to Homebridge in 2019, I want to say, the large scale mortgage division. And then from there, we wound up at CMG 2 years ago. So our team has largely stayed intact. In fact, I think we had a 98% retention from Homebridge to CMG. I inherited a couple of branches, but for the most part, I think we're at about 280 loan officers in my division, and a lot of us have been together for that 20 plus years. So it's fun to have that type of work family and relationship and strong culture within our division.
Yeah, I mean, it when you talk about like the retention numbers, that you don't need, no one has to ask the question about culture. It's they know.
Right.
That's the only way you keep people together, good people together, is by having a great culture. And
my leader, Rosemary, I don't know if you know Rosemary, but she owned her own company. She sold it to First Horizon back in the 90s, and her and I worked together for many years. But she has a very strong vision of and casts vision on a regular basis with our team to say, this is where we're going. This is hard. I know it's hard, my word of the year, but this is where we're going, and we're going to do it together. And it's kind of the rising tide lifts all ships. I'd rather collaborate as a team versus compete against one another. And so it doesn't mean that we don't have conflict come up, because we do, but we handle it in a really professional and high functioning way, I feel like.
One of the things I like to do on here, because you get to coach up your team every day, all day, right? Probably 30 hours a day. Sometimes it feels like
today, right now, for sure.
Yeah. But you may not get as much of an opportunity. And I can guarantee a lot of my audience doesn't get the opportunity to kind of learn from you and kind of, how you coach up in your culture. What are the two or three things that you guys are like, as a leadership team, focused on to make sure that you're pouring into your teams to keep them, as motivated as possible?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it's something I have really, this last 5 years, I've really worked very intentionally to build, because especially during COVID, everybody was working remote. And so I made a very strategic decision to build a virtual culture to where people didn't need to be in the office together to feel a part of the team. And so I did a few things that have now carried through, to, post-COVID, which is, number one, I started doing what I call the Friday wrap. I did a cute little logo that came with it. And every Friday I would do a 30-minute call that everyone was invited to, ops and sales, where we give the down and dirty of what's important to know. And we'd all get together, right? It's the water cooler of that Friday. And we'd all get together every Friday morning at 10:30. We've gone to once a month on the Friday wrap because we don't need to do it as often, but we did that call. I do a Monday success spotlight call every Monday for my team. It's an optional call. I usually have 80 to 100 loan officers attend, though, because they're curious, like, what are other loan officers doing to have success in this market? And I always say there's not new ideas, but there's variations on a theme. There's different ways to approach an idea. And so it's really fun to have that call. It's a 30-minute call from 10 to 10:30 every Monday. We do a Winning Wednesday call where we bring on once a month, an outside speaker, that we've had Michelle on to talk about social media, right? We're going to have Jeff on to talk about education. So we've had Kim Perry come on to talk about AI. So, we try and give them exposure to what else is out there. So for me, I'm a show them, not tell them. Like, I want to show people how you have success. There's one thing just being like, I sometimes feel like Charlie Brown's mom, because my team, a lot of them have worked for me for 20 years. And it is like my kid, I have 20-year-old twin daughters. Like, that's like, Right. So I find that if I can get other people telling them that they are able to have success with this strategy, it just resounds more. Yeah. And we have a very high performing culture. I mean, I have probably at least 4, maybe 5 LOs that will do over 100 million in my division this year. So Amazing. We have a very, high bar, and some people don't want to work in that type of intense, like, performance culture, but we thrive on it. And it's fun. It's more fun when you're winning or helping each other win.
Totally.
It just is. Like, I don't want to be sad. I want to figure out what's the next move. What do we need to do today?
What I find, like, when you talk about the top 1%ers, right? I don't know. I can't remember the last time I talked to a top producer where I left the call feeling, oh my God, they're stressed out. It's out of control. The difference is that they are believers in process
That's right.
And they are truly they're the epitome of work smarter, not harder. And I think too oftentimes I hear loan officers that aren't at that level say, well, I'm not going to go listen to such and such talk because they're on a different level. No, you can learn about process, and process for $100 million producer could be equally beneficial for a $12 million a year producer.
That's right. Just on a smaller scale. And it's how you start to build. And I do feel like people start to tune out when you start talking about those numbers because they feel like it doesn't apply to me, but it really does, because if you look at the fundamentals of what they're doing, they're just doing it bigger, right? That's right. And I'll tell you, you just attract more people to your culture. You just do. People and they don't want to be with Eeyore. They don't want to be with the sad people. They want to be with the fun, happy group. I mean, not that we're happy all the time. I don't want to give that impression. It's still hard. But you know what? My why is to ease suffering and bring joy whenever possible. And in this business, it's possible all the time. Like it is, every situation, there's a challenge. Turn it around, make someone laugh. Like, I mean, some of the situations we see right now on some of these loans, I'm like, are you serious right now? Like how we're scraping the bottom of that barrel, Brian, on what we're seeing.
But this is when creativity, in a good way.
In a good way, yes. To make the loan saleable. But, you can get pretty creative today. There's a lot of creative products out there. The non-QM space is getting bigger and bigger. There's different ways to do business. So I try and get my team to think non-traditional. Like everybody can compete in the vanilla. Like that 30-year fixed, you're just going to lose. It's a race to the bottom. Go outside, find your blue ocean, right, where no one else is playing. Get your niche. Like I think Brady Thomas is a great example. He's in Oakland with our team. I think he's done 139 million already over the last year in volume. He's killing it in a market that's really hard that he's figuring out. And he's niched down on what he calls the two home tango, the 2-house tango, which is buy before you sell. That's kind of his niche. That's what he markets around. But he's doing lots of other business too. So it's like, find your thing, go in, build your personal brand. You got to work hard. You do. It's not a 20-hour-a-week job.
Right.
You got to work hard. Got to show up, but there's loans out there.
Yeah, there's business to be had. There's no question about it. I try to participate in as many open, community groups as possible, just to kind of soak it in. And, you brought up Dave Savage. Just this week, he interviewed Jeremy Forcier, right? And
yes, Jeremy's one of my favorites.
He's another professional that, he grinds, but he's got systems and processes, and he knows where his strengths are, and he'll put another 100 million on the board.
Yeah, I was at a MME retreat with him. He's in the same coaching group I'm in with Cindy, and he presented. And the thing I love about Jeremy is he's so forward thinking. He doesn't wait for somebody else. He's a leader. He's an early adopter. Like, he gave us all these tips on AI, which I've adopted every single one of them. They were all brilliant. But the best scripts come from Jeremy. Like, look up his interviews. Every LO who's listening to this, look up Jeremy's interviews with Dave on objections. He is the master at objections. I've stolen a few of them. They're pretty amazing.
So even this week, my team gets a little. We're not a mortgage company. We're a technology partner to the mortgage industry, and some of us have been around the mortgage business for a while. But a lot of our team, especially our developers and designers, a lot of them don't even have a mortgage. So I took Dave's interview this week with Jeremy, which, guys, it's a must-watch interview if you haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it. I got to go watch it.
Yeah, it's part of his 10X Tuesday series, Savages.
Yeah, which is awesome.
But Jeremy had a couple nuggets. One was he kind of doubled down on where he was having success earlier in the year, which with what he called, and I've heard others call it, the first-time home seller, and how he was managing his database to make sure that he was in front of all of his past clients that were first-time home buyers that were soon to become first-time home sellers. There's a whole strategy there.
It's smart. It's brilliant.
So this is how we soak it in on the tech side. I'm hearing that for the first time. I'm like, that's brilliant. Send it to my product team. We're a persona-based platform. And so I'm like, we need to stand up a persona for a first-time seller. We have this first-time home buyer. So it's like
who thinks of that stuff? They do. Like they're just, that's why I listen. That's why I tell people you got to get in a room with other people, because if you're going this in a vacuum, you're going to get left behind. You need to hear the other voices, even if they're with other companies. I mean, some of my best friends work at other companies. We're all in this together. There's plenty of business to go around in our industry. And I wish our industry would work better together, to be honest with you. That I don't think we're as friendly at the LO level.
It happens in pockets.
Friends, right? Yeah. That's not the challenge, but
there's enough communities that have been stood up where I see it happening. But then there's some obvious like logo to logo, where it doesn't happen, and
some wars, a few of them,
channel to channel, all that good stuff. But
I tell my guys this: the channel, and I'll just leave you with this: the channel conflict. It's a good thing. We need all the platforms. We need broker. We need banker. We need IMB. We need the credit union. For one, it creates innovation and competition. It keeps us sharp on pricing and compensation and all the products that you get. That is a very good thing for us. If there was no competition, I wouldn't need you. Right. I wouldn't need myself. Like I would be out of a job. So competition is very good, and healthy competition is good for our industry.
And just to kind of circle all the way back to our opening around kind of servicing and the economics, there's all this noise around. So I'm in Detroit. I'm like 20 minutes from Pontiac and 20 minutes from Detroit, UWM, Rocket,
right?
So I've got to, wear a hard hat sometimes and make sure I don't get any friendly fire. But, there's all this noise around, the servicer is stealing my business, my account, blah, 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 blah. So this just kind of doubles down on what you're saying. If we don't have a healthy a secondary servicing market, then that would be reflected directly in the ability, the rates and the cost of the mortgage for a consumer.
Absolutely. So, yes, absolutely. It would make it cost prohibitive for a lot of lenders, right? They can't, not all lenders, majority of lenders cannot service. They just don't have the capital. So you need to have outlets for servicing, and they're not stealing it. They're paying fair market value for your customer. Some of them are paying above market value for your customer. We just need to be better at staying connected and giving our customer what they want and what they're asking for. If we can do that as the self-sourced IMB or Bank LO or whoever outside of the Rocket, United Wholesale, we'll hang on to our client, right? Comp's got to come down on refis. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to put that out there. Like it just has to. Like you're not going to compete with a servicer at full boat comp. So loan officers, you need a refi tier. Just
there's a whole episode on economics that we could go into, and we should do that, because I think
we should do that. It's a really interesting topic. I'm pretty honest with my team. I'm just like, you're not going to win them. You're just not. You need. I'll leave it to you, but you're going to have to lower your compensation. Right. It's the only way you're going to get that deal.
Well, Natalie, I've kept you far too long. I appreciate you sharing with the audience. I'm super appreciative of Michelle for connecting us.
I'm so happy she made this introduction. This was a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to the point in time where we actually meet in real life. But until then, I'll see you on a screen somewhere.
Yeah, sounds good. I appreciate it. Have a great day, Brian. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Natalie. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. Come back next Friday for our next episode of Loan Officer Life.